Hi there, salve. Welcome to Interview Insights, organized by the US-Italy Forum. I'm Claudia Flisi, a journalist and a graduate of SciAS, which hosts the forum. Today's conversation is with Riccardo Illy, business executive, politician, academic, and most recently, author. He joined Illy Cafe, the company founded by his father, in 1977. He became CEO in 1992 and mayor of Trieste a year later. He was elected Italy's parliament in 2001 and elected president of the region Regione Friuli Venezia Giulia in 2003. He's currently CEO of Polo del Gusto, part of the Illy Group, and part of our conversation will be what that means and what it's all about. He lectures regularly at prestige business schools around the world and is academic director at Italia Innovation, an organization that encourages visionary thinking in humanistic manufacturing. Maybe you can tell us what that means as well. He recently published in English, excellent English, by the way, The Art of Excellent Products, Enchanting Customers with Premium Brand Experiences. We've invited him to give a preview of its contents. Benvenuto, Dr. Illy.
Grazie, thank you so much. Thank you for your nice presentation.
Could you please tell us, to start out by telling us why you wrote this particular book and why now, after 2 years of pandemic, etc.?
The pandemic was a good moment for writing a book because I had some more time, less traveling and more time for writing a book. But I wrote some book in the past. The first one was in 1989, From Coffee to Espresso. I wrote it in Italian this occasion. Then it was translated in many other languages. And my elder brother, Francesco, made all the photographs. Then I wrote other books. And more recently, I made for Italian Innovation a summer school. I first made some lectures for them some year ago. And then Marco and Carlotta, the two young Italian guys that are organizing this summer school with Italian Innovation, asked me to design a whole program for the summer school. And so I decided to make the program talking about quality, which is one of the specialty of the Italian country and of the Italian population. And so I made the majority of the classes, and we also made several visits to many companies, all devoted to top quality. And after I finished my second summer school, so 1 year later, Marco and Carlotta asked me, so you are telling so many things, why don't you write a book on this? I said, well, yes, good idea. But then I wondered, why should I tell the Italian what they know they are already doing? So it's interesting for other countries. And first of all, we thought to the United States. And so thanks to Marco and Carlotta, we found a good agent, and then we found the publisher, and then here is the book.
Excellent. You describe, or the focus of the book is, of course, excellent products, and you describe them in a word, Encanto, which means enchantment. Can you describe for people who haven't read the book what Encanto consists of and how you decided that these particular 4 elements were the most important of the many you could have chosen?
Because the 4 elements I will talk about are the most important to give you really the top quality which is possible, for which I use the word Encanto, enchanting. And first of all, you really need to produce a good that can be food, can be furniture, can be cloth, so something related to the fashion, whose quality can be detected as the best also by non-professional. So we normally make a blind test, and with an Encanto product, the majority of the members of the panel will say this is the very best. So this is the first requisite. Secondly, you need to use the very best raw material. You cannot go get the best product if you don't use the best raw material. So no compromises in choosing the very best raw material. And that means also to spend something more. And normally the difference in price is smaller than the difference in quality in the raw material. Third point, if you use the very best raw material, you have to process it in order to maintain its quality. And so the process is normally different and traditionally incompatible with the, let's say, normal process used in the sector. To make an example with the chocolate, the best raw material is Criollo. It's a species of trees producing cocoa that was going to disappear with our company, Domori, the founder of the company, Gianluca Franzoni, decided to save these trees, to save these species. And now we have two plantations, one in Venezuela and the other in Ecuador. So we get this wonderful cocoa. But then we process it in a different way. So instead of roasting it at the higher temperature, we use a lower temperature to keep all the flavors. Then instead of grinding, refining, and conching can be a very long process, up to 72 hours at very high temperature, close to 100 degrees Celsius, so to a boiling temperature. We do it in a single way with ball mills, which will do all the process in 8 years and at a very lower temperature, 45 degrees Celsius, almost 1/2 of the traditional temperature. And then we only add cane sugar, no other ingredients. We don't use cocoa butter, we don't use soy lecithin, no vanilla or vanillin, which is worse. No, nothing. So just cocoa and cane sugar. And finally, you will get this excellent chocolate. The fourth pillar of Encanto is sustainability. Normally, quality companies that are engaged with the quality are also engaged in, let's say, protecting their employees, their suppliers, the environment. So they try to be very, very sustainable. And this is something I found also in company producing furniture, in fashion. And I'm talking about this and telling many stories of this company in my book.
No, in fact, in terms of ecologically sustainable, that also includes the packaging. How do you reconcile that with often packaging in cosmetics, for example, which is not part of Polo del Gusto, but packaging is 90% of the cost of the product because people want to feel that they have an important product. And with chocolates, I know as a consumer of chocolate, how it looks, especially for Christmas or Valentine's Day, the packaging is important. How do you reconcile a nice package with something that's ecologically sustainable?
You are right, but I would say for cosmetic, you buy a perfume, for example, and you will use it for months and maybe sometimes even for years. So you are right that the packaging is maybe 90% of the value of the good of the product, but it will allow you to use the product for a long, long time. So different if you have a consumer good that you just open the package, you eat it, you use it, and then you have to throw away the packaging. So in our case, to give again an example with Domori, we use all recycling packages at Domori, or paper, and also where once we used plastic to protect the flavor of the chocolate from the air, we now changed and we are using compostable materials.
Wow. Okay. Now you emphasize the importance of in the book of singular quality products and use the example of Illy Cafe as the first, because when you became CEO, you eliminated other products and focused on one excellent coffee. How do you reconcile that state of mind with the creation of Polo del Gusto for Illy Cafe, which unites a series of different products with different production cycles, different supply chains, and to some extent, not entirely different markets?
Good question. Polo del Gusto is only a holding. So we just acquire participation, possibly control participation in the company. But then each company is producing just one good. Damori is just producing chocolate. Damanfrère is producing tea. Mastroianni is producing wine in Montalcino. And each company has its own governance, and they are absolutely autonomous. We don't give them direction from Polo del Gusto. We just appoint a governance. Normally, I am also a member of this governance, but just one member, over 7 normally. And so the majority are independent members, and they manage the company in an autonomous way. So finally, if they are interested in succeeding with the products produced by their company.
So you don't even try to create any synergy by the fact that each one is let's say a quality leader in its field, no marketing, nothing to add to the mix with the fact that they're part of Illy?
If we exploit some synergies, we do this normally in distribution and also in direct sales to the consumer, but we do not force, we do not oblige any of the companies in participating in these synergetic activities. They can autonomously decide to do it, but if they prefer not to do it, they can avoid it.
Okay. You devote another chapter in the book to authenticity. And of course, you make you discuss often the fact that Italy has a series of traditions, it has history, you know, multi-century history, millennial history. The US and some other countries, not only the US, we don't have that kind of history. And you acknowledge that, but only with a paragraph or two saying, well, a young country with few deep-rooted traditions can impart authenticity in this way or that way, but in a paragraph. How does actually a country or a culture, because it's really not the country of Italy, which is fairly new, but the culture of Italy, which is deep-rooted. How do countries with far less deep-rooted culture impart a sense of history and tradition when the US, Canada, Australia don't have that? How do you do it? How do they do it? Not you.
I got the question, and you are right in one hand, but in the other hand, authenticity doesn't mean that your history has to last 6 centuries, as it happened sometimes in Italy. We have some companies, I will cite Antinori producing wines, or Beretta producing weapons, that has about 600 years of history. And this is something quite rare, and I would say almost impossible in the United States. But I can tell you, I read a book some year ago. The title was The 3 Rules. So a group of researchers try to understand why some companies made in the long term much better than the market. And they looked at some thousands of companies, looking at their results for decades. And finally, they came to this conclusion that there are 3 rules. The first is better before cheaper. So the quality is more important than the cost of a product and even of a service. The second was revenues before cost. So if you have to commit yourself, it's better you commit in trying to raise the revenues rather than to decrease the cost. And the third rule is there are no other rules. But what I discovered reading the history of many companies is that even in the United States, you have companies that has been founded 60, 80, even 100, 120 years ago. So you have authenticity. I would say when a company has 3 generations of entrepreneurs, and by the way, Illy Cafe was founded by my grandfather in 19.
Oh, not your father. Okay.
So I represent the 3rd generation, and the 4th is already working in the group. So I can say you have authenticity. But the important point is to keep the values of your company, the values of the founder. My grandfather wanted to produce the best coffee in the world. And so now it's my younger brother, Andrea, who is chairing Illy Cafe, and he has the same objective. And in all our companies, we have the same one. So Domori's objective is to produce the best chocolate in the world.
Yes.
The Manfred to produce the best tea in the world. So we keep on the value that our grandfather expressed almost 90 years ago.
Then that dovetails with a follow-up question to that, which is Polo del Gusto doesn't have any tech products, but all of you depend increasingly on tech because that's the way the world has gone. A producer of specifically tech products, even in Italy, can't have any tradition because by definition, tech is moving ahead of where the market is. So how do you establish in tech companies, and not only in Silicon Valley, but certainly also in Europe, tech is an increasing part of the industrial mix. How do they create a sense of tradition and authenticity when by definition they almost can't have it?
I would say in the method they use. So they probably will change continuously the technology they use. So they will get new services or new products, doesn't matter, but they can keep on the method they use to improve, to innovate their product, and in the way they interact with the consumer and with their customers. So you can have any case some elements of authenticity that you keep during the time, even if you have to continuously change and innovate your technology.
Here's a couple of questions that are specific to people who are familiar with slow food, the slow food movement, which was also born in Italy. Many of the principles espoused in your book overlap with those of slow food. And in fact, you are also in the food industry. Do you work with them on any particular project?
I am a good friend of Carlin Petrini, the founder of Slow Food, since many years, since I would say the middle of the years 80, when he started his association. Okay. And I cooperate with Slow Food with Illy Cafe at that time. And now we are cooperating with mainly with the Domori, with the chocolate company, with Mastroianni, the wine company. And we cooperate with the Università del Gusto, which is based in Pollenzo, which is the university that has been founded by Carlin Petrini and by Slow Food. And so we have lots of cooperation, and I think that Carlin was really able to bring a revolution in the food sector in Italy, devoted in one hand to quality and in the other hand to sustainability. And so I found that the value that are promoted by Slow Food are really, I would say almost exactly the same that you will find in the Encanto idea of quality.
That's what struck me. And an issue I've had and discussed with Petrini in the past in terms of slow food is that it's very difficult to reconcile that with mass market needs because 90% of the population can't afford Domori chocolate or isn't inclined to pay for Illy Cafe because for the higher quality, it is a higher price. Does that mean that a mass market product can never be Encanto, can never enchant anyone, that the majority of consumers are out of the loop?
There are two aspects. First of all, I would say maybe 90% of the population cannot eat Domori chocolate every day, but they can do it sometimes. Because it's true, of course, Domori chocolate costs more because the raw material to use costs more, because we pay the growers more. We want the growers having a good life, having profits in their company, so we pay higher prices than the average of the market. But this is right. For a higher quality, you need to pay a higher price. But finally, Domori chocolate can cost maybe twice, maybe 3 times another, let's say, mass market chocolate. So you can afford it. Also, if you are just a blue collar or a person with a, let's say, lower level of income. Maybe not every day, but maybe once a week or once a month you can do it. But in the other hand, many of the companies promoted by slow food are tiny, are very small. But they are small because of sometimes a decision by the owner, by the entrepreneur, to stay small. Sometimes because they do not have the skills in growing their company. But I can tell you, every company could become bigger and continuing producing Encanto quality. There is one point, you have never to accept compromises in quality. So if you decide to scale up your company, you have to continue to use the best raw materials, to process it with a different process, to keep in mind that you have to satisfy not only your consumer, but also your supplier, your employees, and you have to take in account the quality of the environment. And also companies that are so small right now can become bigger and bigger in the future. It's just in their decision to do it. And by the way, the number of consumers that are interested in consuming higher quality products and that have the income that allows them doing this is increasing worldwide much more rapidly than the number of inhabitants of the earth. So think to China, where the affluent consumers were close to zero 20 or 30 years ago, and now you have more than 150 million of people looking for top quality products. So more in China than in Europe to say.
Right. No, I know the example was given in India that there are more middle class consumers in India than there are the population of Italy. You know, so
Exactly.
it's all in proportion. One final question. We'd love to go on, but we don't want to take up too much of your time because you have a lot to do with Polo del Gusto and with the book. You express optimism about technology in your book, but you don't address the, I don't want to call it the problem, but the situation of the implications of AI, artificial intelligence. And there are many on the workforce, on processes of production, in fact, on our entire lifestyle. AI is both promising and extremely frightening. Do you have any thoughts about it? Have you given any reflection to it since you published the book? Because AI is advancing more rapidly than COVID. So
first of all, I would answer remembering that when the train arrived and the first car arrived, first with the steam engine, then with internal combustion engines, all the people that were using the horses were threatened, and they thought we will have thousands and thousands of people that will lose their job. And this didn't happen because simply we became more efficient, the productivity increased. So we had the opportunity of producing more goods, of buying more goods, of consuming more goods. And finally, the economy went better and we didn't get all these unemployed people. And I think that the same thing will happen with artificial intelligence. But then I think that AI is overestimated right now. I heard a scientist some time ago telling that the computer with the same power of calculation of our brain would consume several megawatt of power of electricity. So when they tell me you will have a car that will be able to drive completely autonomously, just driven by a computer, I say, yes, when we will have a computer able to, let's say, think as our brain. But this means today it would consume some megawatts. So it is not compatible with the power used in a car, which is only maybe 100 kilowatt, not megawatt.
Right.
So I don't think that the drivers of taxis or buses or trucks in the next future will be substituted simply by computers. It will take maybe much more time, but then we will need people able to project, to design, to give the right instruction to the computer and to build a new kind of car, trucks and buses in order to have the self-driving technology. So instead of driving the taxi, maybe the people will be just producing microchips and a new kind of car. So we will have for sure a shift of kind of jobs, but I don't think that the unemployment will increase.
Okay, no good. One quick final question, because we've actually run out of time. What made you decide to write this book in English? Your English is excellent, but what made you decide to write it in English? And amazing.
Thank you. So I thought, talking with Marco and Carlotta, that it wouldn't be useful to tell the Italians what they are doing. They already know it. So we thought, because I didn't say before that the participants to the summer school were coming from the United States, Canada, other European countries, Asia. So they were arriving from all over the world, from the best universities in the world. So all the courses were held in English,
right,
and all the slides were in English. And so also my thinking about this
already
was made in English.
Right.
And so we thought a book can be interesting for, first of all, the Americans, which is the biggest market for Italian high-end goods. And so the idea of writing it in English, starting in Italy, in the United States. The curious thing is that an Italian editor discovered that the book was going to be released in the United States and asked to publish it in Italy in Italian. It's La nave di Teseo, Elisabetta Sgarbi. And so she asked me, so can you give me the text in Italian? And I said, I don't have it. So my book in Italian will be translated from English to Italian.
That's great. Okay, so anyone listening or watching, the book is available in the United States and will soon be available in Italy, in Italiano. And thank you very much for joining us today. We hope to have another conversation with you soon. There's a lot more to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Buongiorno. Buongiorno.